I welcome all our viewers to this telecast. The topic for today is emerging trends in the field of textbook publishing. And to speak on this topic, we have Professor G.S. Jolly with us. Before I introduce Professor Jolly, I would like to share with all of you that this discussion is in relation to the PG diploma program in book publishing that IGNOU is going to offer from the July cycle. Professor Jolly is holding more than 30 years of experience in this field of book publishing, so he's probably the best person to speak on this topic. He has been a reader in the Department of Book Publishing, College of Vocational Studies, Delhi University. He has several other credits to his name. He is the member of faculty, National Book Trust, and he's one very solid force in starting this PG diploma program of IGNOU. So we'll start with our discussion. Professor Jolly, welcome.
Thank you.
And we would like you to shed some light on publishing today. How you see, in terms of its historical evolution and development.
Thank you very much, Professor Pramod Kumar. You see, publishing in India has now come of age. It is a matter of great satisfaction for the publishing fraternity that India is considered one of the 7th largest book producing countries of the world. We are the 3rd largest book producing country in the world in terms of English language, and we have established ourselves as a global player in publishing. Within the last 20 years, we have made tremendous progress in publishing. As of now, we have more than 16,000 publishers, publishing more than 70,000 books. It is not a small measure by any means. 70,000 titles, new titles every year. Now, because of our position in the world publishing, India has been awarded the Guest of Honor country position at Frankfurt Book Fair twice in the last 20 years. First time India became the Guest of Honor country in 1986, and then again it became the Guest of Honor country in 2006. So this is a great honor for any country, and India is the only country to have achieved this honor twice in the period of 2 decades. Now, having said that, let me say that publishing is not properly understood by people at large. Many people think publishing is only printing. Publishing is more than that. In fact, publishing is the genesis of all creative work. All those works, all that literature which we read, we are able to read only because there are publishers. Author may write a book, but unless he has got a publisher, he cannot share that feeling with the rest of the world. So therefore, he needs a publisher. A publisher, therefore, is an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur in the sense that he spends money, he makes the talent hunt, he takes the business risk, he established an unknown person to an authorship and presents it to the rest of the world. And in the process, sometimes, and I'll say most of the times, he doesn't make money. But it is a business which has its own advantages, own rewards. The rewards which is of creating an author out of nobody. Now we have in publishing history so many examples where persons of unknown entity were made overnight intellectuals, overnight scholars, overnight heroes. It's only because of the publishing. Now, as far as publishing in India is concerned, you know, we are a very large country. We are having more than 350 universities. We have got more than 17,000 colleges. We have more than 1 crore of students studying in higher education. We have got an equal number of institutions privately run, recognized by All India Council of Technical Education and other government organizations. So therefore, there is a very vast scope for publishing. Earlier, they were not, we have, when India got independence, there were only 30 universities. Now we have got more than 350 universities. Now you can imagine the span or the scope of publishing. Now all this student clientele or student base needs books. And all these books are going to come with the help of publishers. We have authors, but we need to have publishers. Now this is a kind of a partnership venture where author writes and publisher propagates his books. So this is what the position is. And interestingly, publishing is not in India done in isolation now. Most of the world, they have started making a beeline in India as far as publishing ventures are concerned. There are many foreign publishers who had earlier established branches here in India. They have started full-fledged operations. They have started making full-fledged operations from Indian soil. There is an opportunity of make foreign direct investment in publishing and printing. So therefore, more and more people are coming here. And with this result, Indian publishers are also getting competition. And the one good result of competition is that we are also improving our standards. Now, as far as printing is concerned, we are not lacking behind any other country. You will be surprised to know, rather pleased to know, that most of the foreign books are these days printed in India. Most of the foreign books are these days composed and typeset in India. Now, we have a large BPO industry catering only to the publishing. We do online editing, we do online proofreading, and we also do the content providing to the foreign publishers. So there is a lot of job in publishing. So this is where we stand today.
Yes, Professor Jolie, you are true. I mean, if you look at the figures, India is one of the largest markets as far as book publishing is concerned. I mean, if you look at the size, 10,000 crores, 1.3 billion is the size, and you mentioned that thousands of titles every year, new titles. We'll move on to a subject-specific question, Professor Jolie,
Sure.
And that is that what are the main points that a copy editor should have in his mind, his or her mind, while cross-checking a manuscript when it comes to him or her?
Now, you have asked a very relevant question, and this will also introduce the concept of publishing, what it is and what it does. See, the author writes the book. It is very seldom that whatever author has written is straightaway sent to the printer. There is another person or another process in between, what is called the editing or copy editing. Now, unless the manuscript has been copy edited means checked from various angles, from various points of views, from the point of view of completeness, from the point of view of subject, from the point of view of coherence, and the point of view of consistency. All these things are checked, and whoever does it, we call it copy editing.
Okay.
Now, I will call copy editing like a nicely cooked food, which is easy to digest and pleasant to eat. And if the food is not cooked properly, the government will complain about the tang, the taste, and the tanginess. So you will not be happy, the guest will not be happy, the food is not prepared properly. But no matter whether the food is good or bad, many people do not realize the amount of work that goes on before the book is really sent to the printer for printing and the book is published. And that job, which is done in the publishing house to improve the quality of production, to improve the language, to make the manuscript complete in all respects, to make it readable, to make it understandable, all these things are done on the manuscript. We call it copy editing. Now, Copy editing is done on 3 stages. One is we call it preliminary copy editing or initial copy editing. In initial copy editing, we see whether the manuscript is complete, because sometimes author submits the manuscript, certain portions are not supplied with, illustrations are not sent, footnotes are not sent, bibliography is not sent, or any other material which forms part of the whole manuscript is not supplied with the manuscript. Then second thing which we look at the manuscript is the legibility. Now anything these days, since it's a computer generated copies, everything is legible. But legible also means understandable. Whether the language is understandable properly. As a layman, the editor looks at the manuscript as a layman. That if a reader is reading the script or the text, whether it is understandable properly, whether the author has succeeded in saying what he wants to say, whether he has effectively put forth his idea. So this is what we have to see when we are doing only preliminary copy editing. Then we also have to see, because the authors quote or borrow a lot of material from other sources. In publishing, it is said every author lives on the shoulders of his predecessor. So every author who writes a book has to borrow some information, something, some facts, some text from other authors who have written before him. So whether the author has taken permission, because if he has not taken permission, then tomorrow after the book is published, the publisher or the author or both can be put to some trouble. So all these things are also taken care of. Then you have to see what is the style of the author, how he writes, whether he writes in a coherent manner or whether the writing is incoherent, whether the sentences structure is complete, whether it is confusing. So all these things you have to see, because when you actually copy edit the manuscript, you have to keep these things in mind, that you have to stress on these aspects of the manuscript before it is completely done and sent to the printer. Now, when we do the copy editing, we have to see certain things, and those things are, because in copy editing we have to make the manuscript consistent. That is one basic idea of copy editing a manuscript or editing a manuscript, that whenever and wherever an item or something occurs in the manuscript, which occurs not at one place but several places, it has to be consistent. That is the basic rule of copy editing, that anything which appears for the second time must be consistently written. Now, both the variation may be correct. It is not a question of something being right or wrong, but the question is that if somebody writes judgment with Judgement, he should continue to write judgment in the same fashion. Now, if somebody writes buses, Busses, he should continue to write buses, not Busses. Now, both the formations are correct grammatically, but you have to see that the author does not vary from one page to another page. Now, for example, you are rendering some spellings, some place names, some personal names. Now, many people keep on shifting the names from one set of initials to another set of initials. For example, Jawaharlal Nehru. Whether Jawaharlal is one word or Jawaharlal are two words. Whether you are going to write JL Nehru or J Nehru. No, whatever form you take or the author takes, it must be consistently used in the entire manuscript. That is one thing which is very clearly looked into, and the copy editor will make it a point that wherever there is a variance, the consistency is provided. Then in the manuscript, there are several cross references. Reference to previous pages, reference to following pages, whether those cross references are correctly mentioned or not. Because what happens is, when the author is writing, he might have taken a cross reference from page number 30. But in the process of finalizing the manuscript, that reference might have gone to page number 32. So, secondly, whether the manuscript, when it is composed, will retain that 30 number page or 32 number page. So, all these things also have to be checked into. Then another thing which is very important in providing consistency is the mentioning of dates and time. You see, we in India, we normally write date first, and then month, and then the year. If you have to mention 6th of May, we will write 6/5/2009. But if it is American system of writing, they will write 5/6/2009. So the difference in rendering. Now the author also has to see the audience for whom the book is written. If it is the book is written for the Indian audiences, and if the large chunk of the audience is Indian, then he can go ahead with the Indian system. If the book is meant for export market, it is going to be read by the foreigners mostly, then the other system should be adopted. So whatever system has been adopted, it should be consistently followed in the manuscript. Now we write in rupees, for example, we write rupees 5, 10 paisa. We also write rupees 5.10, or we also write 5.10. So whatever we may write, anything may be correct. It cannot be disputed. Why have you written so? But whatever way you have chosen, you should be consistent. Then another aspect which is seen in the copy editing, which is sometimes authors do not very much care, that is called the notes, which is invariably find place in textbooks, because the authors consult many books before they write. They have references which they give as notes, either at the end of the chapter or at the end of the book, or sometime at the foot of the page. Now, in certain chapters, the author has given footnotes at the foot of the page. In another chapter, he has given notes at the end of the chapter, and then he also given notes at the end of the book. Now, this is confusing. This will confuse the reader. So, what a copy editor should do in consultation with the author, that he should consolidate the notes at one place, and if the notes are very essential to the text, immediately, because the material which is given in notes is supplementary material which a reader can read if he is interested in that subject in more detail. So if it is very important, very pertinent to that particular page, then it is better to give those notes at the foot of the page. Otherwise, the note should be given at the end of the chapter or at the end of the book, because if you are giving footnotes at the end of the foot of the page, then every page will have a different format. In some pages you will have 3 notes, some pages you will have 2 notes, some pages you will have no note. So therefore the depth of the page will vary from page to page, and it will be not very good for the designing of the format of the book. So similarly, another aspect which most authors ignore while writing the manuscript is use of abbreviations. Now we very commonly use abbreviation. Now for example, nobody spells out Indira Gandhi National Open University. We write IGNOU. Now how IGNOU is to be written? Whether we write IGNOU with I full stop, G full stop, N full stop, O full stop, U full stop, or we write IGNOU as an acronym, that is just one word, IGNOU, or we write IGNOU capital letters or small capital letters or whatever way, we should be consistent, and we should only use which are very common abbreviation. Most authors thinking have this perception that whatever abbreviation they are using, readers will know. This normally doesn't happen. So you have to introduce the fully spelled out word or term at the first occurrence, and in following occurrences you can use the abbreviation, and whatever abbreviation you use, as I said, should be consistently used. And another thing which most authors are not careful, and where editorial scrutiny comes at its best play, is the use of punctuation marks. Now I'll give you an example of comma. Comma is used to clear or clarify the text. It is not used to confuse the text. And using too many commas sometimes confuse the text. So use comma as judiciously as possible. I'll give you one example. The sentence runs like this. The lion ate, Jack and Jill laughed. This is a simple sentence. The comma is after line 8. The lion ate, Jack and Jill laughed. In the second line, it is mentioned, the lion ate Jack and Jill laughed. Lion ate Jack, comma, and Jill laughed. And the third place, lion ate Jack and Jill, comma, laughed. Now,
Yes.
this placement of comma in three different places has totally changed the meaning of the sentence. In the first sentence, the comma after 8, line 8, comma, the Jack and Jill are laughing. In the second place, line 8, Jack, comma, and Jill laughed. The lion has eaten Jack and Jill is laughing. And in the third place, lion 8, Jack and Jill, comma, laughed. The lion has eaten both of them and is laughing. So this is a very simple example I usually quote to express the what is called the power of comma.
Yes, right.
So punctuation marks should be used very judiciously and very rarely, and only to illustrate a certain point or emphasize or put an emphasis or to clear the sentences. Similarly, there is another aspect in quotation which is called use of quotation marks. Now, most authors normally vary in use of quotation marks. They sometimes use single quotes, some double quotes, without differentiating where single quote is being used, where double quote is being used. Now, this is the author's choice, whatever way he wants to use single quote or double quote. Now, but if the quotations are as a part of the quotation itself, if you are using quotation marks and within the quotation mark there is another quotation mark, if you are using double quotation marks and in the quotation there is a single quotation mark, do not change that. Also, do not change the spellings even if they are wrong, even in quoted material. What maximum you can do, you can write, put another bracket or write sick, that you do not understand what it means, but you cannot change it if it is wrongly written and you are still quoting it.
Sick
So,
is SIC.
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 SIC. So that means it's not clear.
Yes.
So these are some of the things which one does while copy editing. Then one has to provide clarity. This is also another aspect of copy editing or editing, that you have to provide clarity to the manuscript. Now, as I said, anything which is written is clear, but there are certain things which are not very clear. Sentence is very long. The structure of the sentence is very confusing, and the sentence ends suddenly in the middle, or the author has forgotten to put a full stop somewhere. So it is not clear. The idea or exposition of the author is not very, very clear. So every sentence has to be read clearly, whether it gives the meaning what the author wants to give. So if the author has failed, the editor has to provide this clarity by either changing the sentences. Now, in changes, one precaution has to be taken. See, changes in the manuscript are very common. In every manuscript, you will find changes. The author will find certain changes have been made. But it is always better to tell the author the kinds of changes you are going to make. It is not necessary to tell him each and every change you are going to make, but it is better if you tell him the kinds of changes you are going to make, so that he is not shocked to look at the manuscript when it is sent, when he sees them in proof stage, because then he will start fighting with you. Why have you changed? Why didn't you tell me? So it's always better to inform him beforehand that these are the things which we are going to change, which do not go with our style, which are not consistent, which are not clear, which are ambiguous. So all these things one has to see.
Yes.
Another thing in copy editing which is very important is that the manuscript should be complete. Now, when I use the word completeness, it means complete from what is called title page to the last page of the text. The book may contain acknowledgement. The book may contain a foreword. The book may also contain what is called a preface. So all these things, whether the author has written or not, if the author has not written, you have to remind him that please write, the book is ready, it is ready to be sent to the printer, because normally these things are written at the end when the entire book has been written. So within the text, so this is one aspect, preliminary page, we call them preliminary pages. Then the body of the text. The entire text is complete with footnotes, illustrations, diagrams, whatever has to go into the manuscript. And then the end pages, if they have bibliography or some tables or some references or some appendixes, which are not part of the text but they are part of the book. So all these things are to be checked and they must be with the copy editor before he settles down to do his work or in the process of copy editing, so that the complete, consistent and readable manuscript is sent to the printer. This is what copy editing is.
I must.
And many people do not appreciate that all this work goes into the publishing of a book before the book is sent to the printer or before a book is released for public distribution.
Yes, I must say, Professor Jolly, that you have dealt with this question quite comprehensively, and our viewers, our learners, and those who are keen to enroll for this program, PG Diploma in Book Publishing, will have the whole essence as to what copy editing is, what are the chief areas that which should be kept in mind, and the way you have explained, with examples and illustrations. So, I mean, this has really made us listen to it completely. Next question that we would like to ask you, Professor Jolly, is the role of art and graphics in the development of textbooks. I mean, we have heard of the role of art and graphics in general books, but what role does it have in relation to the development of textbooks specifically?
Yes. Let me begin by saying that a picture tells more than 1,000 words.
Yes.
It is very easy to remember an image. It is sometimes difficult to remember the text. The purpose of art and graphics in a textbook or in a text is to facilitate the readers to understand the text, understand the idea behind writing whatever is written in the manuscript. Now, the purpose of art and graphic is to communicate. The graphics are used to communicate. Even when there is no language used, no script used, no text is given, if you look at a picture, hundreds of words come to your mind, whether something is written there or no. When you look at a cartoon, sometimes there is no caption in the cartoon. You understand, you laugh, you think, you ponder, you contemplate. The cartoon or a small sketch will give you so many words to think, which the author has not written or which the cartoonist has not written. So, this is the purpose. The purpose is to communicate, and the purpose is also to make the communication easier. That is the main purpose. The graphics and arts in a textbook is not for decoration.
Yes.
It is to supplement whatever has been written by the author, to make it understand. Now, when we say try to explain the triangles are concurrent, for example, we have to show them two triangles. Only then they would know how the triangles are concurrent, how one thing is different from the other. We say in publishing, we have different sizes of the book. We have different page layouts. We have different types of page setting. Now, unless you display them, the people or the reader will not understand. That is the main purpose. Graphics are also a method of presentation. Sometimes you can illustrate a thing and make it easily understandable than writing the whole text. This is the purpose. And the main purpose of graphics and art in a textbook is to make whatever the author has written easily understandable, to grasp. If you can remember a diagram, you can explain the diagram. For example, in management, you explain the concept of management, you explain the linear arrangement in a management setup, the manager, the top manager, the senior manager or the junior manager, and the person reporting to them, and the duties of each one of them. And if you make an organizational chart and explain with the organizational chart, maybe with circles or rectangles or whatever form, that top management, then followed by 3 senior managers, followed by assistant managers, then it is easier for the reader to understand and to explain what is the organizational setup in a particular particular scene. So this is what the purpose of the graphics is, and it does provide creativity. The written text, solid text on a page is sickening sometimes.
Yes.
Because particularly in textbooks, the publisher tries to print as many lines on a page. If you look at a textbook and you look at a journal book, you'll find textbooks are more solidly printed. You will have 35 to 40 lines on a page, whereas in a journal book you'll find 30 to 32 lines, more margins on top and bottom and right and left. But in textbook, since it has to be priced low, it has to compete with other textbooks, every publisher tries to compensate on pages, number of pages to be printed, so tries to write as many lines on a page. But if you give some illustration, some graphics, some design, something of this sort, then it does make the reading easy, and it makes a competitive position in the market. It is also, if you have a book which is fully illustrated, has more chances of being marketed better than a book which does not have.
Yes, true, Dr. Jolly. Like a right kind of employment of art and graphics makes the message, the text, more explicit, more interesting and exciting, and more coherent also. So we would move on to the next question that is coming up. That is it that the editing of science and technology textbooks is different from the usual kind of editing? I mean, these days, lots of, medical and technical books are there in publishing. So what are the chief factors that an editor should keep in his mind, her mind, while editing these books, science and technology textbooks?
For editing any book for that matter, I'll say that a person who knows that he doesn't know is better than him who doesn't know that he doesn't know. If you are not competent in a particular subject, you should not try your hands on that subject. There's a proverb saying that a bull in a china shop.
Yes.
So a bull in a china shop will clumsily spread ruins wherever he goes. If the person himself doesn't know what is the subject, then he should not try his hands particularly in textbooks of science and technology and management. Now, for editing of scientific textbooks, the person editing the textbooks must be a knowledgeable person, particularly in their discipline. Now, I'll give you an example. The example is from social sciences. There is a word called propensity. This word is very less commonly used in general parlance. The word propensity means ability to spend. Anybody, for example, I have a very little propensity to spend money, or somebody has a most propensity to spend money. Now, propensity is a difficult word and very uncommon word. There is a famous economist, Keynes. He has a theory of propensity.
Lord Keynes.
Now, if a person is not aware of what this propensity means, he may change this word from propensity to ability. He will look at a dictionary because he is not understanding the word propensity. He will change it to ability, which will totally destroy the meaning of the whole message. Now, similarly, there is a word called collage, COLLAGE. Now, if this word is there in the text and the person is not aware what collage is, he might think the word should have been college. So he might change the word from collage to college. So he will not only spoil the manuscript or the text, he will change the idea also. So in scientific and technical books in editing, the person has to be equally knowledgeable, because if he has to make certain changes, he must convince the author, and he can convince the author only if he has reasonable logic behind it and reasonable knowledge behind it. And that is possible only if you know the subject. So copy editing or editing scientific technical books is not an easy job, and one gets proficient in it once doing the job. But some basic knowledge of the discipline is a must, and therefore you find that very few people are specializing, and those who are specializing are always busy to the neck in work. Because every publisher wants to engage a person who has some knowledge in that particular field. So that is something different from editing an ordinary textbook or a general book from editing a scientific technical book. And then second thing is, the scientific and technical textbook has to go according to the course structure. You have to see whether the text has been structured according to the syllabus.
Yes.
All the components of the syllabus, all the components of a particular chapter, whether they have been covered or not, because in a general book you may omit something, or you may overemphasize something, or give a negligible coverage to another thing, but in a textbook it cannot happen. You have to cover each and every point and has to do justice within each and every aspect of the subject, and that is, the copy editor has to be very well conversant with the syllabus or the syllabi of various disciplines, so that he can ably do this work.
Yes. So what you seem to convey that, a basic grasp, understanding of the subject, subject jargon, like, there is science, there is law. So if the editor has basic grounding in all those areas, so that will be better off for the job.
Yes, that is very essential.
Yes. Now next, all this takes us to a cordial editor-author publisher relationship. We would like to have your opinion on this. Is it important? What are the various issues which can be there, and what is the best way to tackle those, sort out those?
You see, most debated point in intellectual circles about publishing, besides talking about technicalities of publishing, editing, copy editing, proofreading, and all other things, is the author-publisher or editor-publisher relationship. This relationship is, we can compare it as a Saas-Bahu relationship, a love-hate relationship. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't like it. But the relationship starts with the definition of the editor. There was an editor, his name is Saxe Cummins. He was the grand editor of Random House Publishing Company. He has written a book, What is an Editor? And in that book he has given a definition of an editor. If you look at the definition, you will see what an editor is and what does it do. And everything follows this definition. He says, editor is first of all a worker, proud of his craft, sensitive to ideas around him and responsive to them. He is discriminating against misinformation, nonsense and humbug. Now this is what an editor is. And all this relationship between the author and publisher, author and editor comes under this preview. Because editor will not allow an author to go beyond a certain limit. Yes. He will not allow the author to write something which is inconsistent, which is indecent, which is not relevant, which is not correct. He will not allow the author to write something which is called humbug, as he has used the word, or something which is nonsense. So in order to provide this clear and coherent manuscript, the relationship evolves. But let me say that the relationship is of equality. You need an editor to look at your manuscript, and you also need an author to edit a manuscript. So there is nothing that something is placed above the other. Both are on equal footing. You need publishers, editors, as well as publishers, editors need authors. So there is no difference between them. But there is always a sense of suspicion which lurks in the minds of authors. And it's only by the understanding and a deeper relationship between the two that misunderstanding disappears. And that is only when the publisher and when the author comes in contact with the editor and has a detailed relationship in the process of publishing the book. Now, the first suspicion between author and editor or publisher is the submission of manuscript. Because when the author submits a manuscript, and most publishers reject the manuscript at a very fast speed. No publisher wants to reject a manuscript which has some worth. But the author will always think that the publisher has rejected the manuscript without reading it. And it doesn't happen. No publisher would like to lose a manuscript which has some worth. So this has to be clarified when there is a relationship which furthers when the manuscript is accepted. Now, even if the manuscript is rejected, the editor has to be very cordial, very respectful, because today the author might have submitted a manuscript which is not publishable, but tomorrow he may come out with a manuscript which is publishable, which you want. So if you have shown some courtesy even while rejecting the manuscript, you can win over the author. So that is one thing. And another important thing is that when the manuscript is being edited, so you have to have a very cordial relationship, because there will be time when the editor wants the manuscript to be shortened. He would ask the author to cut short the manuscript length, and this is an area where there is always a conflict, because publisher will like to have the manuscript as coherent as possible, as clear as possible. There can be repetition of ideas, there can be repetition of words, repetition of phrases, repetition of paragraphs, or the author in the process of writing may not notice it, because writing is not a continuous process. You write today 10 lines, you write another day 10 chapters or 2 chapters, you write there is a gap in between, so there is not possible to keep contact what has already been written. And once the manuscript is written, the author becomes very wary, so he wants to get rid of the manuscript, he gives it to the publisher. So it is the editor who looks at the manuscript, he gives it a second eye. So he provides a critical eye to the manuscript and tries to improve it. So a good editor is a boon to an author. If you do not have a good editor, you cannot become a good author. In theory, it is said the manuscript is sent, author submits a manuscript which is in a reasonably good condition, which is ready to be sent to the printer. But in practice, it doesn't happen. And it happens only after the editor has gone into it and relationship develops in that. But let me tell you as a last word that no matter how skilled the editor and how learned the author, unless they can understand each other, their relationship must fail. There has to have an understanding between the two, so that they can have an everlasting understanding and relationship. There are, in publishing history, there are authors who have dedicated their books to their editors. So it is not always unpleasant. It is most of the times pleasant these days.
Yes, so very true. I mean, if all these three people, the author, the editor, and the publisher, if they work in harmony, I mean, that will be the best state of affairs for a society. I mean, if there are no affairs. Next thing that we want to take up is the latest technology which have come and in a way revolutionized the whole thing, but maybe the time is not with us in abundance, so maybe we can touch upon that, and so that we can wind it up. And
you see, the printing industry or the publishing industry has made large leaps in the last 10 years. The development which did not take place in the last 50 years has taken place in the last 4 or 5 years. Now we have computers, softwares which can take care of so many things which we used to do manually. Now the latest development in computer technology or the printing technology, which I can mention right now, since there is not much time to discuss further, that is called a machine called print on demand. We call it POD. Now in that print on demand machine, you can get a copy printed, bound within 5 minutes. So you need not publish 1,000 copies or 5,000 copies and keep an inventory. You make the PDF file, feed it into the computer, whenever, as and when you get an order, take a copy and supply to the customer. And now this is the latest development. So the earlier, the publishers are always worried about the overprinting and underprinting. If they are underprinted, they get more orders. If they are overprinting, they get less orders. So all their proffers were written out. So now they can always take care of this, that they print only as many copies as they have advance orders.
Yeah, like some time back, one could easily distinguish between Indian published book and the foreign published book. So maybe this is entirely due to the exposure to the technology. Thank you very much, Professor Jolly. I mean, this is so gratifying to hear you. You have dealt with all the issues, and there are more issues. We'll need to take those up in our future sessions. I thank all our viewers also, and I thank you on the behalf of our viewers for this so enjoyable listening.
Thank you very much for
you
calling
very
me
much.
for this session. Thank you.
you.
Thank you.